What's up, Moonlords? We're back with another astrology update. We're going to talk about the Mercury Retrograde today, and I have my favorite astrologer here with me, Emily. Emily, how you doing?
I'm good. Hi, guys. We're being Mercury retrograded as we speak,
Yes.
which is why we're recording this for you and not streaming it, which is what we had originally spent half an hour trying to get done. And Mercury was like, no.
Yeah, Mercury was literally saying is not happening today. We literally were ready to go. We
We
had all
were
our ducks in a row.
excited. We were both so excited just to because there's so much fun stuff to say. And then it was just like, wah, wah.
Yeah, seriously. But hey, as you guys know or should know, Mercury has a lot to do with technology. Does Mercury actually rule technology? Is it the ruler of technology, or is that more Uranus? Mercury is more
I
of the
think it's a
ruler
bit of
of.
both. Like, but
Yeah,
definitely the systems that it runs on and like networks and internet and like that connectivity is all under Mercury. So
yeah,
it's always an interesting tech time. I don't know. I like see like there's like this big war in Astro Twitter over people that are just like, you shouldn't be fear mongering over retrogrades. And then other people are like, but they happen and they always have the same effect. So are we just not going to like discuss what is actually going on every Mercury retrograde? But I think this stuff is too common to say that it doesn't have like a more of an annoying effect on our day-to-day lives. And with a couple of like more serious warnings, but Mercury retrogrades aren't normally like deathly or super harmful or anything like that.
yeah. And Mercury is a planet of communication, so you got to watch out for your communication devices at this time. Um, Definitely about just processing and being logical and just anything involving information. That's Mercury. And so when the planet goes retrograde, that planet kind of has to go within or reflect, or go back on something. And that's what's kind of happening with the retrograde period. But before we start talking about the actual retrograde, let's talk about what a retrograde is. So in this sky, of course, the planets are always moving forward, but sometimes planets slow down. And in astrology, we interpret that as retrograde. And it's really when the planet is closest to us on Earth, too. And when it goes retrograde, it's a time, like I said, reflecting, retuning, redoing. Um, what's your take on Mercury retrograde, or what a retrograde period is?
Any Yeah, any retrograde, like I totally believe that like it's calling for like the redo, like revisit, like
Mm-hmm.
reevaluate of whatever that planet is like a steward of or generally rules over. And like Mercury retrogrades are a really good time to fine tune your communication styles. And if you have any dysfunctional ways that you're relating, especially in Libra right now, that's going to be a really big theme that's going to come up over whether or not we're being like fair and balanced in how we communicate with the people around us and getting a real chance to maybe like work some of those interpersonal issues out because Mercury is also co-present with Mars and the Sun right now. So yeah, that looks like a fiery mix, but it's also in Libra, so it's a little bit more like it's not quite as dangerous as it, but that still looks like arguments, visible arguments, things that you wish you could
Yeah.
take back.
If there's any time to have like a bad aspect for me personally, I like it to happen with Libra energy, because it's Venus and Libra's trying to make everything beautiful and harmonious, and typically Libra's not looking for bad
Totally.
results. Yeah. But yeah, you made a good point.
And the
It's
will to
happening.
fix it, the will to like repair it is there. Libra
Right.
is like willing to go a step further and set it back right if you accidentally like get yourself in it and like you have to apologize. Like there's always that sort of like air around everything that it can be successfully like you know
Yeah.
except for
Perfect.
like Scorpio stars or something like that where it's like you're gonna die. That relationship is never going anywhere ever again, and like nobody will ever forget it ever. Like arguments can actually be put like to rest now.
Right, right. Yeah, because Libra is all about balancing things out and working as a team. And so it's a great time to balance things out with your partner. And definitely, partners are more reflective of the imbalance that's happening in relationships. So if you have a partner that's trying to say something to you about an imbalance in a relationship, it's a really good time to compromise. I think that's a good key word for Libra is compromise. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I
and so,
agree.
yeah,
Definitely.
compromise and balance. Okay. And now sometimes when Mercury's retrograde, since Mercury wants to get things done and is always looking for progress, we do have to be careful of, getting upset of roadblocks or not seeing that progress. We do have to be patient for the Mercury retrograde to play out. And typically, when the Mercury retrograde ends, it's a time where things should be kind of retuned and things can start going forward again. And that's going to happen around October 18th. And that's the same day Jupiter goes forward. So you got the planet of intelligence, Mercury, and the planet of wisdom, Jupiter, both going direct on the same day, which to me, we're all kind of getting a brand new understanding and a brand new clarity on a lot of things in life, especially air energy, things that involve around communication, and how we want to analyze things and how we want to plan things and strategize around things. I think this October, the end of October, is really good for a lot of clarity and a lot of doors opening, which and speaking of that,
Well, there's
and
like,
go ahead.
no, tell me.
Well, I was going to mention we have 4 planets all going direct in October, which
Oh,
is like
yeah.
insane, insane.
It's going to be a vibe shift. It's going to be very noticeable when everything starts powering through. But in the meantime, like kind of like what the other side of that is, the first few weeks of October could really be kind of like a drag. They could
Yeah.
be not necessarily as fun because Mercury is kind of slowing things down. And it's not even necessarily slowing things down, but the things that are going to be coming up in this retrograde aren't going to be like news to us, because we're going back over degrees that we just lived through, and we're going to hit some aspects that we already just got through. So it's going to be more like revisiting subjects that came up like quite recently for most people, especially that Pluto Mercury square that we just got through the end. This could totally be a time where like whatever, big reveals, confessions, transformations, like Pluto kind of like has all of that energy, like whatever was communicated in that time might need to be like rehashed at this period. And it's going to be really hard to do because Libra is an indecisive kind of like back and forth sign anyways in communicating, like because they're always weighing both sides, and Mercury's retrograde. So even in this, like it's getting a little long-winded. Like you should try to be like as forthcoming as possible when you're talking to the people that you care about. And it's not going to be easy, especially with all the air energy right now. Like getting lost off track and kind of beating around the bush. Like I feel like Libra can be like sort of passive aggressive too. Like
Mm.
you should be really trying to focus on how to most honestly and directly like tell your people whatever it is that's going on. I think that that is like another big theme, not wasting anyone's time.
I like that. I like that saying "don't beat around the bush" for the Mercury retrograde, because that's a very easy way to be misunderstood. And during a Mercury retrograde, it's an easy time to be misunderstood. So
Yeah, to
definitely
start the
be
confusion, like with the
yeah.
game. Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely be clear and maybe really focus on thinking before talking, and making sure your delivery is on point, and making sure your delivery is very Libra like, very Venus like, pleasant, happy. Aphrodite gets what she wants by just simply being charming. Okay, so it's a good time to always stay charming. You definitely don't want to be in the opposite energy of Libra right now, and that would be Aries, where you're one sided and you're being aggressive about your communication. So I guess we should talk about what not to do or what to watch out for in Mercury retrograde. And one of those things would, especially happening in Libra, is not a good time to me. You could tell me how you feel about it, but it's not a good time to start a new type of relationship. Would you say that's true, Emily?
Oh, that is a tricky one. I don't know because it is possible for, I mean, this is, well, it's a good time to talk about exes. Like if we're on
Yeah.
the subject, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe starting like another go around of a relationship with an ex is also a very bad idea because they can kind of like start wandering into the picture whenever there is like a romantic flavored retrograde. I don't No, it was like if you were going to start for an electional chart for a relationship and Mercury was retrograde in it, like you would typically think that that means like there's going to be communication problems within it. But like love is love, Jason. Like if somebody is really like, if it's meant to
Mm,
be, they should go for it. And, you know, there's always ways to remedy whatever's going
mm.
on. Like
That's true.
don't get a new car, but if you find a new love, you should go for
Aw, Emily, so adorable.
it.
That's that. Emily's a Venus rising, so she always feels that Venus energy in the air. I feel you on that.
Yeah,
But yeah,
August
like
7 Libra too. You're right. It is like it's very Venusian. There's very
mm,
Venusian vibes right now. The airy Venusian vibes.
right. Um, so don't buy a new car. Maybe don't sign any new contracts unless it was something you were already dealing with before. Don't jump into something new as far as like something very detailed like contracts or any crazy business changes because Mercury retrograde typically wouldn't be the perfect time for that. It would actually be not the best time for that, if you ask me.
Yeah, especially business partnerships. That's a good one. Like that should
Mm,
definitely not be started. And you probably should spend more time like tending to them and making sure that there aren't miscommunications right now. Um, and no contracts. And it's not that it's just like it's going to curse it forever. It's just that it's really hard to get all the information that you need to make an informed decision when Mercury is retrograded. Like trickles in. It's like a non-linear process. So a lot of times when you like finally commit to like, yeah, I'm going to make that trade or I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, like right after you do it, you find another piece of information that was like, that was not my best move. um and vice versa in the other like direction, when you are getting like sort of delayed and like stunted and pushed back and like you're not being able to make forward progress, if you're really patient with it during a retrograde, a lot of times you'll find like it was actually like in your favor. Like that
right.
pause and whatever you were forced to wait for turns into like something that, you know, was a lucky break for you, or just like dodged a bullet, or just like even, you know, put you in the right place at the right time. So that's kind of like the retrograde hack that I always like to go to, is just being very, very, very patient and open-minded
Mm,
with delays, because they might
mm.
not be what they look like, you know?
Totally. That makes total sense. And if you do have to jump into something, um, if it's doesn't feel fair or balanced, then that's a huge no-no. It being in the sign of Libra, if you ask me. Now, some other things you should watch out for is just backing up your computers, making sure all your files and everything's are safe, because a lot of times technology like that can also fail with Mercury retrogrades. And like she said, just be patient, and you should be good. So what we should do is look at the current stars in the world, and we'll give you guys a general idea of all the energy. So I'm pulling that up now. Of course, my internet is working slow with
So
Mercury retrograde.
today, I
Mm-hmm.
know. So I get to start because I already have it up. But
Perfect.
today we have like an aspect that I already thought was going to be a lot of fun, even though it's kind of messing it up, which is the Mercury Moon Jupiter air trine.
Mm-hmm.
And two of those like components are retrograde. It's the first day of Mercury retrograde, and the moon is in Gemini. So like as looking at this, like I feel like it's a very like lighthearted, like easily distracted energy.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst that would happen with this is like maybe communication disruptions, but like also a lot more of just like playfully kind of wandering off track, like, you know, fun ADHD type, like just pulling in the wrong direction. Might not be like able to make as much forward direction on your projects as you want to, but you'll have a lot of fun like not doing your work, that kind of thing.
Nice. We do have an air trine. I did not realize that. That's amazing. For what you guys don't know, or is it a grand trine today? It's an air grand trine. Mercury, Moon, and Jupiter. Yeah, we have a grand air trine today with Mercury, the Moon, and Jupiter. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. So if you guys know what that means, basically when three planets are in the same sign and around the same degrees, that's going to give you a grand trine between that element. And right here we have Mercury, and you can see on the screen, Mercury's 25 degrees, Jupiter's over here. in another air sign, 23 degrees, and then we have the moon in an air sign, 20 degrees, and of course Mercury's in Libra, 25 degrees. So that's a perfect. It's actually a really good time for us to be communicating all this stuff because we have a we literally have a grand air trine. So whenever you guys see a grand air trine, time of communication, time of analyzing, getting things done. It could also be happening in the air trine, but just finding a good balance and communication amongst people is perfect. And if you guys have a grand, what do you think when you see someone with a grand air trine in their chart? What does that tell you about that person?
That's definitely a communicator. That's
Mm,
also a lot of mental energy. So it's going to come with like the pros and cons of that, like high intelligence, also a really high rate of like anxiety probably going around with it, even
mm,
though it is an air trine, but that's somebody that you oh, innovative too, and always young. Like air energy is always like a youthful energy wherever it comes to. Like even Virgos. Oh wait, no, Virgo's
mm,
not air, that's earth. Yeah, no, I just think of young, intelligent, very like tech savvy, kind of like flighty,
mm,
but in a good way.
mm.
Air
And
chime. Tell me what you think.
I think it was really interesting you said that it could build anxiety because I have seen that a lot. I've seen a lot of people with air trines with a lot of or air grand trines when and they're people who overly think or just think a lot. They're in their head a lot. They think a lot, and yeah, sometimes that can create anxiety. But it depends on where it's at. But yeah, if you got a grand air trine, you're definitely really good at communication. You have all the elements of air. So you're going to have Gemini, you're going to have Aquarius, you're going to have Libra. So you're going to be charming with that Libra energy. You're going to be very good at networking with that Gemini energy. And you're going to be very good at innovation and pioneering and helping organizations and communities with that Aquarius energy. Okay. So that's what's up. Grand air trine on Earth
Which
is
is
what's
a
up.
good thing to also air signs are like a little, especially with everything you just described and thinking about all this, like they can be a little detached though. It wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily be like Aquarius and Gemini for sure will like quickly move on to the next subject if something loses their attention. Libra can be a tiny bit superficial and running on the top of things, you know. So that's definitely like one of the deficiencies there that might be there. But like, you know, like we said, it's a trine, so it's a harmonious aspect. So like the beautiful like representations of the air signs are more likely to come out in a natal chart.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. And so we have a grand air trine, and then we also have the Sun and Mars in a sign of Libra. So there's a lot of air energy, lots of Libra energy, lots of Aquarius energy. Um, man, Mars and the Sun in Libra. Talk about a time of that's like a test. You put Mars and the Sun, two planets that love to be in Aries in the opposite sign. It's like we are literally being tested to see if we can compromise, if we can find balance, if we can not be stuck in our ways and stubbornness and all that stuff.
And that is one thing, like I was writing a blog out about this. And one thing that I said, like, especially with Mars and the sun in there, and Mars really frustrated, like, you know, by the confines and like the diplomacy that Libra is always insisting on. These
Mm-hmm.
are probably going to come out as like little, like you're probably going to have the outburst first and then have to fix it second. Like you can talk to yourself as much as you want to about like not like blowing up in situations where it's not good for you. But this is really kind of like this is some immediate energy from the sun and Mars. Like they're not cautious. They don't wait. They don't like plot out in a big way. They just like they shine and they stab, you know, depending on whether it's sun or Mars. But I think that it is going to be really important to keep in mind with ourselves that just be ready with an apology and a correction. Like, because an apology isn't really worth anything if you don't change the behavior behind it. But
Oh,
I would really view this as more of an opportunity for like screening the things that you might not be aware of, you know, that are coming out in everyday communications and sending things sideways. Because I feel like that's also a lot of energy to like really correct it and correct some stuff that's been long term, deep seated, you know, find some new patterns.
mm.
But we'll see, because that's a lot of, like you said it exactly, like two Aries planets that are just like stuck in
Yeah,
Libra with Mercury
yeah.
going backwards. Like that's
Mm.
very frustrating for all parties involved.
And the last time we went live, I told everyone what happens after Libra season. Okay. And Venus is already there. It's going to be Scorpio season next. So when all these planets leave Libra, they're going to be entering Scorpio. So if you don't find that balance, that transformation will happen in Scorpio energy. If not before that, because at the end of the day, Venus isn't already in Scorpio. And
Venus is
Venus
already
is
in Scorpio. So we're already, that is such a good thing to bring up because we're already getting a little weird and suspicious of the people around us. Like, you know,
yeah.
kind of like wondering if there's more going on. And now we're having communication difficulties like centered around our relationships with other people. Libra, the balance is maintained. So there's just like, and then Scorpio's ruler Mars is like in the same, like, so Venus and Mars are switched in their homes. It's just like, it's really, it's going to be an adventure because adding into all of that, we also have Mercury moving into perfect square with Pluto, which was a big one last week. Like I definitely felt the effects of that. And now we're going right back into that territory. So Pluto and Scorpio are kind of like, you know, synonymous, very, very, very similar, like underworld vibes. And that's coming into this lighthearted Libra party at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
So
it's really a lot.
With Mercury aspecting Pluto and Venus in Scorpio, hey, be careful of what you're doing in secret, okay? Be careful what you're doing in secret. If you think you're getting away with it, you might have a partner behind the scenes, you know, watching you, and it could get revealed in the next 2 months. So yeah, definitely be careful of what you're doing behind the scenes with this energy. Not a good time to be sneaky at this time.
No, not in any regards. Like, especially with the sun there, the sun reveals, sunlight disinfects, you know, and it's whenever Pluto's involved or you have Pluto sun contacts, like I always feel like the best advice, if you are caught in something shady or like if you did do something, that just like own up to it and try and like, you know, pick a better choice in the future, because Pluto really will whip up a scandal around anything that you are not willing to own, you know, and take responsibility for. And it's not cute when those like Pluto, Mercury, Sun, anything could be really, really like somebody's going to get on the wrong side of just total notoriety that way. So don't be sneaky. Don't be hiding things that are meant to be. Don't be like trying to like shortchange or do any of that kind of stuff. Cause I agree with you. Like this is really like very visible energy at the same time.
Exactly. So one way you guys can check exactly where this is kind of happening for you guys is find out what house Mercury lands in for you guys right now. Find out what house the sun is in for you right now, because that's where a lot of that balancing out needs to take place. Okay. So how does that work? For me, the sun, Mercury, and Mars. This all falls in my 12th house. Okay. So it's a time for me. The 12th house is more of what's happening in mind, the psychological part of my life, the imaginative part of the life, my illusions and fantasies. All that stuff is kind of getting retuned, reflected on. And me personally, I already feel myself rebalancing my mind. I've been kind of focusing on I want to say the wrong things, but some certain things I've been focusing on, I don't need to be focused on that stuff, right? And after this Mercury retrograde in my 12th house is making me realize that. It's also making me remember some of my fantasies and what I really want to focus on, okay? So find out where that lands for you. Emily, where does the Mercury retrograde land for you?
It's in my 6th house.
Ooh.
It's in my 6th house, and also I have Pluto in my 6th house. Whoa. So there's already like a lot of stuff that's been going on and happening. But that's my 6th house of like daily habits, co-workers, work, like all of this sort of small animals. It's also like traditionally like the house of illness and injury, which is like not amazing, but it is considered to be a malefic house. And I think I'm okay so far. Like I don't think that I've had anything terribly there hasn't been anything like too big, but I definitely have all of the kind of stuff coming up for review. Work habits, workflow, like how
Hmm.
I'm doing a lot of this stuff in my day-to-day life and whether or not it fits, because I have a lot more responsibilities right now than I did like a couple months ago. So that's another really big theme, like making sure that I'm
Hmm.
keeping up with everything.
I do like the Mercury retrograde and Mercury's house of the sixth. Okay, Mercury belongs to the sixth house, so yeah, you have a Mercury retrograde in a really really good spot if you ask me. And sixth house, like you said, has a lot to do with your everyday routines, habits, good habits, bad habits. Has a lot to do with physical health. Okay, has a lot to do with just your overall well-being. So that's actually a very nice place for Mercury retrograde to be. I don't know about Pluto. Okay, that could be a little more intense, but
Yeah,
Mercury retrograde is sixth
that's
house.
a deep one. Well, every time Libra season comes around, this is like, so I'm used to Pluto remediation. Like planetary
Mm,
remediation is when you take a difficult aspect or transit and you
mm,
try to offer that planet, if you believe in planetary magic and like such things, whatever it would be seeking from you. And Pluto's always looking for transformation. So I just kind of like offer up the transformation. Every Libra season, I'll start like getting really like intense about counting my macros and working out and like just try and turn it into like a physical thing so that it doesn't like transform me out of this lifetime. Like I'm always trying to like keep Pluto on my good side. And it definitely like around late September, early October is when like everything does start to get a little bit scary.
right before Scorpio season, yes sir.
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
Scorpio season is a relief by the time it comes around, really. Like I don't
Mm,
have any like concerns whatsoever about Scorpio season.
yeah, yeah. I'm actually looking forward to Scorpio season. So it'll be my first house. I tend to like Scorpio season. I don't know why, but it's just the vibe. It's a water sign, so the vibe's there for me. I don't mind it at all. It's a little bit of a darker energy, transformative energy.
Yeah, and it's just like a spooky time of year. Like Scorpio's time of year like fits like Scorpio vibes so hard too. Like I
Mm,
start like October 5th, like at the very beginning of the month, I will automatically switch into like Halloween time because I just love it. I love everything about it. I love like dark, like autumn trees and paths and all the creepy stuff. Like do it all month long.
is I don't know when the exact time it switches to Libra season, but is it Scorpio season in Halloween? That would
Yeah,
make
it
sense.
is.
Yeah. Okay. So we have the holiday of the living dead happening in the sign of life and death. That's hilarious. Scorpio season.
Mm-hmm.
So funny. So funny. All right. So you guys know what to do. See where the Mercury retrograde lands in your chart. And since this Mercury retrograde has a big theme with Pluto, also look at where Pluto lands in your chart for more information. Okay. What house it's in, what sign it's in. Obviously, it's in Capricorn. And yeah, that will tell you a lot to know about what's going on in your life. Now, before we wrap this up, trading wise, financial astrology wise, Mercury retrograde, what's your take, Emily?
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. We can't end this without discussing this. So there's a couple of different theories on Mercury retrograde and how it affects the markets, and I'm sure you have some of your own too.
Mm,
One is the concept of a retrograde reversal. Mercury rules the markets. It's one of the fastest moving planets, other than the moon, and its movements can really dictate, like we've seen before when Mercury is stationed or really slow, like just times of like really flat consolidation and all that kind of stuff. So the theory is that it can either, and sometimes will, like reverse a downtrend or send a downtrend into an uptrend when it wouldn't have normally happened. And then another one is from the financial astrologer Ray Merriman, who says that Mercury retrogrades create like so much volatility in the market that you're looking for trend changes like every 1 to 3 days, which is kind of a different either which way, it's really not a good time to be making risky trades. Like, you need to have your stop losses very tight. You need to have a plan of what you're going to do. You need to be prepared for that plan to go completely wrong, because this is like one of the main rulerships of like, and in that end, because I'm somebody who really believes that mistakes made in the market can sometimes be like the strongest education we got. Because
Mhm.
if it's a win, if your trade went right, you don't go back to find all the reasons it worked. Like, as often as you will like figure out like what went wrong if you lost something. So if you're feeling adventurous and taking it from that spirit, sure. But like, this isn't, don't YOLO, don't do any of that. Make sure you're not buying on a top signal. And just like, be careful about selling or liquidating if you absolutely don't have to. Things are not going to be what they appear. It's just not clear enough information to have like a really like safe like trading platform. Although I know that you're braver on the subject than I am. Like, I'm not. I'm happy to not. I'm just like going back for like doing some education
Mhm.
and reviewing the stuff that I have and getting ready for like when everything goes direct. And I'm like super happy and chill to do it. I have no problem putting the trades down.
And this is why astrologers need to hang out with other astrologers, because I was telling Emily today, I was like, oh, Emily, I just found out that a lot of people are using robots to trade and they're doing this and that. And a lot of people are having success for it. And I was all excited thinking I was going to put my money in some random robot. And you're like, what are you doing? Today is literally Mercury retrograde. It's not the best idea to
That's
be
like
going into.
5 different things that Mercury rules at the same time, like high
Yeah.
speed trading, robots, handling like algorithms in control. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was
Not,
amazing though, that like Mercury like had you like this. It was like, are you sure? Are you
yeah.
sure you don't want to
Yeah.
risk everything you have on these like robots that are going to be malfunctioning?
Up.
It's so funny because that's one of the things too, that like one of the crypto astrologers that I follow, Astro Crypto Guru on Twitter, he was
Mm,
saying that like that's one of the ways that he sees it pop up in the crypto markets is through like tech glitches,
mm,
hacking attempts, sometimes stuff
mm.
like that, like data dumps and like that sort of like robots gone wild with your money, like sounds like it would fit into that camp too.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. So there will be no robot trading for me until at least the end of October, when Mercury is out of retrograde. Okay, facts, facts.
And so is
Uh,
everything else. That is going to be robots gone wild. Like, that's going to be
mhm,
an amazing time,
yeah.
amazing entry.
Make sure you guys are checking those passwords. Write them down. I would hate for something to happen and you're trying to get inside your account and you can't during this Mercury retrograde. It will definitely, definitely happen. And I won't be surprised if there's stock manipulation with technology. Oh, the brokerage is down, the exchange is down. We can't, blah, blah, blah. All that crap could definitely be happening during Mercury retrograde. Just try not to get too
Exactly like
frustrated.
what happened. Oh my God, with that Pluto Mercury square. Yeah, absolutely. Like, that is
Yeah.
one of the first, that's a really good catch, actually. With the Pluto
Mm,
Mercury square, that's exactly how they would go about it, is probably
yeah.
shutting down retail access, while they're in the middle. They did that with support when that collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything, the market makers were the only ones that had access to it, and they were shorting it into the seventh circle of hell, and any retail holders like couldn't sell it, they couldn't trade it, they couldn't do anything because they hadn't finished listing it on any of
Mm-hmm.
the retail exchanges.
Yeah. And
Very sneaky.
I'm not really big on putting in sell orders on AMC, but I do have a few sell orders for a potential rip. Um, they're all over $100. Don't get it twisted, but they're there just in case it does rip and they start that crap where you can't sell your stuff. I do want to make sure I get in some sales with my limit sell orders for sure. So keep that in mind. But anyway, we're gonna leave it there. Unless Emily, did you have anything else you want to say on the Mercury retrograde?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
especially, I think moon lords pretty much know how this goes at this point. Just
Mm,
stay fluid. Just,
mm.
whatever happens, go with it. You have like the tools to navigate yourself out of it.
Yes, sir. And Emily, if they want to check you out, read some of your blogs, which are amazing, or some of your tweets, where can I find you?
You can find me at lovemoneyvenus.com, and all of my socials are there. My blog is there, and booking information is there too.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Well, you guys know you can find me at this YouTube channel. If you're new here and haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe channel. I appreciate all the Moon Lords who show support and all that good stuff. And you're watching the Market Moon Lord, where we merge the matrix with the stars. I'm your host, Jason Alexander, the Blue Moon of Neptune, here to help you navigate through the illusions of life. I'm here with my favorite astrologer, Emily. Until next time, peace.
Bye, guys.